Hey there, multi-prep teachers. You know how professional development never seems to quite get to what we need? It's like, great idea, but how do I make this work when I have 3+ preps to juggle? That's exactly why I created the Simplify Your Preps Collective. It's a free Facebook group built just for teachers like you, where we share tips, resources, and real talk about making multi-prep teaching less overwhelming and more doable. Sound like your kind of space? Head to kristenmasick.com/collective and join us today. Let's simplify together. Welcome back to the Secondary Teacher Podcast. Today, we are going to dive into teacher reflection. I've got some great questions for you to have you reflect on your accomplishments, your teaching practices, and some advice that you would give your past self. It's all about celebrating the wins and finding ways to level up for the next school year. Welcome to the Secondary Teacher Podcast, the podcast for middle and high school teachers juggling multiple preps to get the strategies to reduce overwhelm so that you don't have to choose between being an effective teacher and prioritizing important relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Masick, a 10-year high school engineering teacher, former middle school assistant principal, and teacher coach. Every week, we will discuss strategies, systems, and time-saving tips to help you not only survive but thrive as a multiple prep teacher. A love-hate relationship with reflection. I totally believe that reflection and taking time to reflect will improve your teaching practice. But I feel like there's also several times within education specifically where the reflection has felt forced and almost like I'm feeling like I've had to reflect in a certain way and there are right and wrong answers. Today, we are going to be doing some reflection. I've got some question prompts for you. And the beauty of being on a podcast is that you can literally just answer these questions and you don't have to report them to anyone. You don't have to feel like you are reporting to your administrator or to an instructional coach on what might be right or wrong, and you can be as honest as possible with yourself to help you improve for the next school year. The first question we are going to be asking ourselves is, what have you done, experienced, or accomplished this year? And this could be anything. So think about that for a moment. What have you done? What are some things that you would like to celebrate? What are some things that you have done? It could be as simple as you have survived the year. That could be it. It could be that you survived not only the year, but maybe you added an additional prep. Maybe you had a student that you were having conflicts with at the beginning of the year and you made it through the whole year. Maybe you have set some boundaries. You've been able to say no more frequently. Maybe you have set a goal of leaving school a little bit earlier or checking your email or notifications. All of those are things to celebrate. You could also celebrate your students' accomplishments. How did your students do in your classes? Did you really enjoy a specific class? Like just enjoying it, saying, hey, I had a really, really good time teaching architecture one this year. It was great. I really enjoyed those students. That can be a celebration. You can also celebrate maybe how they did on the end of course exam, if you have something like that, or any certification exams. Those are all things that I want you to think about. What have you experienced or what have you accomplished? After you answer that, I want you to pause and think about your answer. How does it feel? How does it feel that you have accomplished something? And then what did you notice about that? When you're in the middle of it, it's really hard to see that you accomplished anything. This is a really great question you can ask yourself anytime. It could even be at the end of the week, end of the month, or even end of the day. What have you done, experienced, or accomplished that is something that you can celebrate? Let's now dive into some other reflection questions. And these reflection questions are questions that I have mentioned before when we've talked about student surveys. I originally got them from Dr. Robin Jackson, who has a podcast, and within one of her episodes, she talked about how to have student focus groups, and she mentioned these 4 questions that I have modified slightly so that they can be questions that you can ask yourself. Now, here are the questions that I really would like to share with you today. The first one is, what are you doing that you really, really like? What is something that you did this school year that you really, really like? Whether that lights you up, whether it lights your students up, what is something that you are enjoying? And this does not have to be content specific. It could be that you've put together some routines and processes that are working really well. It could be that you are spending some time having conversations, personal conversations with students and asking them questions on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis. These are things that you are going to want to continue for the next school year. The next question is, what are you doing that you don't like, even if you know it's for the good of students? Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one because this could be that you're getting questions or you're having things come up that are mandated from the school or district or administrators. It could be that it's just a strand or standard within your content that you don't love, but you know you got to teach it. Just think about, what is something that you don't like, but you know that you have to do it because it's good for students. This is going to be one that you might want to focus on. How could you make it so that you like it a little bit more? Or maybe so that you don't like it a little bit less? What simple tweaks could you make to make it maybe a little bit easier or better or more enjoyable? The next one is, what do you think you should stop doing for whatever reason? And once again, could have very similar questions or answers to the second question. They could be things that maybe you have been doing that is just something that an administrator or your school or your district has asked you to do, or it could be like a activity or a project or something. Maybe it's even something, a resource that you got online from someone else and it just didn't work. This is something you want to note so that by habit, you don't do it again the following year. If it is a strand or a standard or a unit that you still need to keep in your content, what you are doing right now, if it's something you don't like, you are going to, at some point, need to refresh that so that you can like it a little bit more. All right, and then the final question, what advice would you give your past self about making your classes work better for you and your students? If you were to be able to get into a time machine and you were able to go back to before school started last year, the summer before school started, what is some advice that you would give yourself on how to better adequately survive, thrive, teach for this school year? And now you know what students you had this last year. What are some things that you would honestly tell yourself to help you get ready for next year? And this is also going to be a great question because you can really reflect on some of the challenges that you had last year were maybe not that big of a deal, but when you're in the thick of it, was a really big deal. So, for example, I had a student who was really challenging one of my years, and to the point where the first semester was about to end, and he was telling me, and he kept telling the whole class that he was transferring out of the semester. I was counting down the days. I'm sure he was counting the days, and everybody else in the class was counting down the days. And then the semester hit, and he was still in my class. And I ended up going down to the counselors. I'm like, why is this kid still in my class? He doesn't want to be there. In hindsight, so that was like super contentious. It was very difficult class period. In hindsight, I'm looking, thinking, what could I have done? I bet there are things that I could have done. I know there are things, now that I'm a more experienced teacher, that I could have allowed him to maybe help teach things, to get him more engaged, to find out what interests him so that it would be more enjoyable instead of just dreading that class period every single day. In hindsight, that would be some advice that I give to myself is take a step back when you have a challenging student. This challenging student is going to come your way. Take a step back and maybe think about and get creative on how you can engage the student, maybe how you can connect with the student to make your life and then all of the other students in your class a little bit more enjoyable. So those are the reflection questions that I would like you to answer this year when you have some time. So the first one is, what have you done, experienced, and accomplished this year? Number 2, what do you really, really like that you're doing that you can repeat that again for next year? The next one, what are you doing that you don't like, even if you know it's for the good of students? And maybe how can you tweak that a little bit so that it's a little bit more enjoyable for the next year? What do you think you should stop doing so that you can stop doing it? And also possibly think about what you would need to do to replace whatever that item is. And then finally, what advice would you give your past self about making your classes work better for you and your students? If this episode was helpful to you, it could be for others. To help spread the word about this podcast, take a screenshot of this episode, add it to your Instagram stories, and tag me at Kristen Masick, KristenMassick. Until next week.